This is a UFO, in the strictest sense of its definition, an unidentified flying object, filmed in 2022 in an undisclosed location in the Middle East by a US military Reaper drone. The recent public hearing that this was shown at is only the second UFO or UAP Congressional hearing since 1969. But what is this object? Why is the US government taking it so seriously? And should you? But first, a brief history lesson. The US has long been interested in UAP, a phrase that's actually been around since the 1940s. It was strange balls of light that World War II Allied pilots reported, dubbed Boo Fighters, that set the topic alight. A topic that would explode with Kenneth Arnold's sighting in 1947 of craft that moved through the sky like saucers skipping across water. And of course, the mother of all UFO cases at Roswell, New Mexico, that very same year. The number of reports from military and civilians during the 1940s would be intense enough to spur the creation of the US's first official investigation into UAP, Project Sign. Project Sign was followed by the similarly short-lived Project Grudge in 1949, which led to the more well-known Project Blue Book, established in 1952 and running until 1969. Blue Book examined more than 12,000 UFO reports along the way, and while the project concluded that most sightings could be explained as natural phenomena or man-made objects, including the famous swamp gas explanation,
swamp gas from a weather balloon was trapped in a thermal pocket and refracted the light from Venus.
Over 700 reports were designated as unidentified and remain that way to this day. After the project's closure, its science advisor, the professor and astrophysicist Joseph Allen Hynek, a former UFO skeptic, came out saying he thought that the phenomenon was real and regretted his involvement and compliance with the government's transparent attempts to downplay and debunk credible cases.
Either there's a virus going around that's causing everybody to become crazy at the same time, or there's something to it.
Whilst no official government UAP program has been found from the 1970s, 80s and 90s, that didn't mean there weren't any reports. Reports like the 1976 Tehran UFO incident, the 1980 Rendlesham Forest incident, 1996 in Virginia, and the 1997 Phoenix Lights, all directly or indirectly involving the US military and are amongst some of the most fascinating and credible incidents out there. Thousands upon thousands of UAP reports were documented throughout the 20th century, and while some of these were reported on in the world's media, UAP still remained a fringe subject. But in 2017, one news story changed everything.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA.
The extremely reputable New York Times broke the story. It contained classified videos from two incidents recorded by Navy pilots while training off of US aircraft carriers. Both videos contained unusual objects flying in restricted airspace in the Navy training grounds. The videos were given the nicknames Flare and Gimbal, although Flare would also be later known as Tic Tac due to its shape reported by the pilots. The Tic Tac incident in 2004 involved Top Gun pilot David Fravor, who said it moved abruptly like a ping pong ball bouncing off a wall. The New York Times article also included the revelation of a previously secret department of the US government studying UAP that ran between 2007 and 2012. ATIP, or the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, investigated reports of unidentified anomalous phenomena by military personnel, and allegedly collected documents, video recordings, and other materials related to these sightings. And it was run by this man, Luis Elizondo, a former counterintelligence agent. After resigning from the Department of Defense in 2017, Elizondo told his story and released the videos to the New York Times.
There is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone.
But he didn't do it alone. As a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, the second highest ranking position in the DoD, Christopher Mellon has had access to some of the US's most sensitive defense projects.
What are the chances it's a foreign military versus the chances that it's actual alien?
We see no evidence that it's from a foreign government. None of the instances, the 144 incidents they identified, could be explained by US classified research programs. So that leaves you wondering then what hypothesis best fits the facts. And frankly, the alien hypothesis fits the facts.
He helped Elizondo to release the videos and continues to be vocal about UAP transparency from the US government. The 2017 New York Times article is now regarded as a turning point in the world of UAP. It was the first time that key elements all came together to create a kind of perfect storm. A highly credible newspaper, video evidence from highly credible Navy pilots, backed up by the DoD and the Navy, later confirming the authenticity of the videos, and a black-budget UAP program headed by a credible former intelligence agent, whose position was later confirmed by former Senator Harry Reid. Reid was a great proponent of UAP investigation and acquired $22 million of government finance that funded the predecessor to ATIP, called ORSAP. The Advanced Aerospace Weapons Systems Applications Program was a high strangeness study program operated by aerospace entrepreneur and billionaire Robert Bigelow. ORSAP focused on data from public sources and investigated Skinwalker Ranch, a hotspot for anomalous activity that would later spawn a hit TV show. When ATIP succeeded ORSAP, Elizondo took over and closed the Skinwalker Ranch investigation to focus on military encounters with better data. Over the coming years, more footage would emerge, more reports would be made, and more credible witnesses would come forward as the topic of UFOs and UAP begins to have its stigma eroded. Highly distinguished scientists begin to take real interest. Politicians, congressmen and women campaigned for UAP transparency. Momentum was growing. 2018, the now famous Go Fast video was released, also filmed by Navy pilots during the same 2014-2015 period as the gimbal video. 2020, the Pentagon officially releases all 3 Navy videos, FLIR, Gimbal and Go Fast. The COVID relief bill signed by Donald Trump included a provision placed by Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and others requiring US intelligence agencies to deliver an unclassified report on UAPs within 180 days.
There's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they moved, their trajectory. They did not have an easily explainable pattern.
The Pentagon established the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, or UAPTF, to identify and examine UAPs that could pose a risk to US security. The UAPTF released its first report in June 2021, which outlined the findings of 144 UAP sightings documented by US government sensors, with 143 of them being unexplained. Later that year, UAPTF is replaced by an even more forgettable acronym, AIMSOG, the Airborne Object Identification and Management Synchronization Group, with the aim of expanding the program's scope, improving training and processes to better understand UAP. 2022 saw the first public congressional hearing on UFOs and UAP in over 50 years. Intelligence officials were brought before the Congress and questioned. The program changes its name again, and AIMSOG is succeeded by ARROW, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, through legislation demanding stronger action. And even Bill Nelson, former astronaut and the head of NASA, announces its plans for an independent study of UAP.
And the fact is, we do not know what this phenomenon is.
And now, we are here.
For just the second time in more than a 50-year span, Congress is holding a hearing on UFOs.
It's a privilege to be here today to testify on the defense's efforts to address unidentified anomalous phenomena.
This is Sean Kirkpatrick. He is the current director of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARROW, and comes with more than 2 decades of experience studying physics and working in the defense intelligence space. He has held top positions in the DoD, US Space Command, the National Security Council, and was chief scientist at the DIA's Missile and Space Intelligence Center. At the Congressional hearing held on the 19th of April 2023, Kirkpatrick showed this video as an example of one of the 650 unidentified cases that ARROW is currently tracking. What is it? No one knows. It has been classified as unresolved, basically meaning they have no idea. But that's kind of the point to all this. The reason the US is taking reports like this so seriously is because they don't know what these things are. And not knowing what things are that are in your airspace represents a real threat to national security. After all, we saw what happened when an unknown intruded upon US airspace with the Chinese balloon this year. The objects reported are moving throughout US airspace and active war zones with impunity, with no visible means of propulsion, no wings, or anything resembling traditional flight surfaces, and often displaying flight characteristics which seem to go against our current understanding of physics. If they are just balloons or drones, it seems laughable that before the US showcased this video in front of the world, that with all their intelligence, military, scientific and analytical expertise, that they hadn't already considered those explanations. To be clear, none of this means it's aliens. And that's not what the DoD is saying either, though they are careful not to rule it out.
Have you ruled out aliens or extraterrestrials, and if so, why?
I'll let the intel community and the counterintelligence community figure that out. I haven't ruled out anything.
But if it isn't something from another planet, dimension, or time, then it would appear that another country has, in secret, developed a drastically superior technology that has leapfrogged both the USA and the known frontiers of flight. With all technological breakthroughs, there are stepping stones, key technological advances that make breakthroughs possible. But if what we are seeing is man-made, then there are no obvious stepping stones, no path leading to this technology. And so explaining all UAP reports with prosaic explanations becomes, well, problematic.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA.
ET hypothesis aside, the greatest superpower the world has ever known is taking these anomalous objects extremely seriously and is applying some of its top intelligence and scientific minds to study it. So if you're someone that scoffs at the word UFO or rolls their eyes at someone who says they've seen one, or if you're just someone who assumes we know everything that is going on in our skies and the universe beyond, then pause to remember what's happening right now in the US. Because if they are taking UAP seriously, then why aren't you? During the 1970s and 80s, the US was working on secret stealth technology to make aircraft that were virtually undetectable by enemy radar. These radically different and almost alien-looking aircraft designs would produce many UFO sighting reports from the public during test flights over the US. One of those aircraft was the B-2 Spirit, and the creators over at Mustard have made a fascinating documentary about the B-2 on Nebula. Tip of the Spear tells the story of the B-2's origins, how the technology works, and the other aircraft that it led to. Mustard are aviation experts, but they also know how to make really beautiful videos, and I really think that you will love it. And it's only available on Nebula. Nebula is an amazing place, a streaming service set up and run by your favourite creators, and it's also the best way that you can support my channel. It has a ton of exclusive content that you can't find anywhere else, like me ripping into Quake 2, something I wouldn't have been able to do on YouTube because it gets a little bit sweary and would 100% be demonetized and ignored by the algorithm. There's behind the scenes bonus content. And there are literally hundreds of your favourite creators on there also making stuff that you can't find anywhere else on the internet. Like Wendover's series, Logistics of X, or Neo's How the Twin Towers Were Built, or Patrick Willem's Night of the Coconut. And you also get Nebula classes, creators teaching how to create. Great for aspiring creators, or those of you that just love seeing behind the curtain. No ads, no algorithms, and every penny Nebula makes goes right back into supporting your favourite creators. So to support me, to support this channel, and to get 40% off an annual Nebula subscription, yes, 40%, that's like $2.50 a month, then click on the link here or in the description and you support me. And you get money off and you support me. It's win-win.